Hi, my name is Steve, and this is a tutorial on how to make this staff, or one like it. So, I'm going to give you a quick breakdown of what's going on here. This staff uses a lot of the different functionalities in Autodesk 123D, and I'm going to replicate a quick version of it and just kind of show you how every part's made. So, right now the staff's been broken into different pieces so that it can be printed off in sections and then put together, assembled like a puzzle. So let's start by replicating it. So we're going to start at the bottom and we're going to work our way up. So here we go. Okay, the main thing to know while using this program is primitives are your friends. The primitives, which you won't be able to see the drop down here, there you'll have a box, a sphere, cylinder, cone, torus, and then flat polygons as well. I'm just going to start off with a cylinder here, and I'm not going to specify any kind of size on this. And let's go ahead and get this centered off here. Pull it off to the side, and we're just going to kind of eyeball it here. This whole staff was actually made just by eyeballing a bunch of pictures. Had to work out what I needed to do. So I built the body like this. Scale was not an issue that I had to worry about. Now, the main thing is these little fins here that you see. There are 3 of them. And the way I made those was similar to this. So let me move this a little closer here. Initially, I started off by making the fins and the cone on the bottom, but we're going to do the fins here. So I made a nice little box here, and we're going to actually reduce the size on this box. We're going to make it about 5 instead of the default 20 millimeter, and then I'll paste that down. First step was to rotate it, get it to the shape that I wanted. In this case, I wanted a I wanted it to look like these little fins here. And so I started off with one, then I created a second one, and pieced the 2 together, creating a slight angle between them. Of course, there's a number of ways you can do this. This was just one of the ways that I happened to do it at the time. So once my initial shape here has been created, I'm going to make a third box. But first thing I'm going to do is join these 2 pieces together. Now, in order to save a little time here, I'm actually going to hide this. If you select an item, you'll see a little eyeball which allows you to hide an object. A great feature to be able to use, because then it allows you to just home in on an object. Now in this case, you can see that these 2 are not set correctly. So in order to fix that, I'm going to use the press pull command, which is P on the keyboard. And I pull it out just a little bit, and then I use the reactor distance, which will automatically allow me to snap to a face. And so now I have this nice cleaned up face there. Now this extra block that I made, I'm going to use for a completely different purpose, and its purpose is going to be to cut the back side here. And so right now the overall thickness isn't a big issue. What is an issue is getting the shape right. So I'm going to use a command. If you go up to your menu here under the combined command, you will find a merge, subtract, and intersect. I'm going to use a subtraction. I'm going to select this object here, and then select this object here. Now it'll automatically switch over. You can select multiple objects to cut at once, or to cut into an object at once, and then it'll allow you to do that. So now I have something that looks similar to what I was working with just a moment ago. So I'm going to snap this face back into place here. It doesn't look quite right. Okay, so you'll need to pull the face out in order to use the snap tool here, and it appears that it's not allowing me to snap, which tells me that this face is not flat. So what I'll need to do is get this close to the distance. I'm going to put a box connected to this part here, and then I'm going to pull and shape this out. Once that's done, I'm going to cut that box off, and it should flatten out my face. Okay. And now on the top here, you'll notice there's a little bit of an overhang. In order to get rid of that, we're just going to pull it up here until it overlaps. And then we come in with another block. And we're going to again cut, and now we have the shape here, which is similar to what I had on the other staff. Now I'm going to use what's called the tweak command, which is K on the keyboard. I pull this in, and it allows me to manipulate the shape. Quick and easy. And so now I have a little arm. Now on the other model, you'll notice, I'm going to go ahead and show the materials here. You'll notice that first off it's rounded on the corners. And it also has little prongs on the end. Those prongs are very simple to make, but then you have this part here. We have these these supports. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to close this off. Now I'm not going to try to duplicate this exactly. We're just going to get kind of teach you the basics of how I did that. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to snap this to here. Now that puts it directly on the center. Now I don't want it on the center, but I also need to rotate it. So I'm going to go ahead and rotate it, and then I'm going to push it down. Get it out to about where I want it. Oops. There we go. And then once I have it at the position that I need it to be, I'll go ahead and pull this in, and now I have my little prong there. Now I kind of want a little more bulk to the bottom there, so I'm going to pull this up again, and now we're going to make a little support arm. Now because this is just a support arm, I don't need a lot of thickness to it, but I do need to get the shape, and there's a couple ways you can do the shape. I'm doing it this way just because I feel it's quicker. And now I'm using the magnetic snap tool here again. And I need 3 blocks in order to complete this shape. Alright, so I have my 3 blocks set up. I'm going to adjust the middle one here and pull that out. Then I'm going to connect all 3 blocks using the join command. And then I'm going to come in, and I'm going to use my tweak command right on the little corner here. I'm going to push it all the way back until it's right into there. I'm going to do the same thing here again. And as you can see, we're starting to get something similar to what we had. Now I'm going to pull this again here. And then one more time over here. And just like that, I now took 3 blocks and created this shape here. Now to make it a little more interesting, we're going to come up on the top here. We're going to push this down a little bit. And then I'm going to take and snap the bottom edge here to here. And then I'm going to rotate the entire piece. And I'm going to push it into place. Now it's a little big, so I'm actually going to scale it down. So I'm using the uniform scale factor here. And then I'm going to use my tweak command again. And I'm going to pull this all the way inside. And once it's inside there, I'm going to use my push and pull. And I'm going to reduce the thickness on this support. Now you might be wondering why I'm only drawing the one, and I will show you why in a moment. So we're going to come in here, we're going to take a cone here, and I'm going to make this cone very small, but not quite that small. I'm going to magnetically attach the bottom of the cone right to there. And now, this cone, I'm going to actually chop off part of. So I'm going to snap that to there. And again, I'm using cutting methods in order to quickly form shapes. Now I'm just going to bring this down a little bit. Then I grab my cone and I cut off the tip there. Now that I've cut off the tip, I can go ahead and use my E command, which is my fillet radius. And that will allow me to round off this. Now, there's a little bit of a difference on the model that I made. This is not just a round part. I'm going to use a non-uniform scale factor. A non-uniform scale allows me to stretch this and actually get it to be more of a cone shape. Now, I'm going to step back just a little bit here because I need to do something first. One thing is, when you're doing a scale, you want to make sure that you're doing it on a flat surface. If you don't do your scales on a flat surface, you can get distortions in the shape. Unless you want that distortion, your best bet is to pull the object off, snap it to something else, and then do your non-uniform scaling. So I'm going to stretch this out a little bit and make it into a prong. Now that I have it straightened out, I put it back onto here, and then I can uniformly scale it because I just need it to be a little bit smaller. And then I'm going to use my fillet again on the edge here and just round that off. And then there's my little spike right on the end. Now I'll delete that block because I won't be needing that. And then we're going to move down to the base. Now here comes the fun part. I created this little, I just put a cone on there, default settings. I didn't do anything to it at all. And then I'm going to take a square, and I'm going to snap that square right to the bottom of this. So I need to move this off a little bit first. And then I'm going to hide that square. And I'm going to grab this again, magnetically attach it back to here. And I'm going to show my solids. And I'm going to pull this down. And I'm going to snip off the tip here. And now I'm going to take and create a copy. And the reason I'm making a copy of this is so that I can take and reduce the size without reducing my radius. Now I just used the pull command on my secondary one, my clone, and now it is the exact same distance, however the internal radius is slightly smaller. I'm going to use my cut here, my remove, using my subtraction command, and I'm going to cut out this part from the inside. This can be a little tricky, but once I've done it, you end up with this hollowed out piece. And now I can put some neat little details on this. And on this particular one, I'm actually going to do something a little different than was on the original. I'm going to put a hole into here, and I'm going to show you a neat little trick. So this is something you can do on gun barrels if you want to do like flash suppressors and such. I've gone ahead and pushed a cylinder through here, and now I'm going to use a really useful command, which is called the circle command. It's a pattern command under patterns. I select the object that I want to pattern, and then I'm going to grab my axis here. Any one of these circles will do just fine. And I'm going to only do 3. Now you can do as many as you want and make it a very complex object, but I only need 3. And so I take those 3. Now I'm going to subtract these parts. And now I've made 3 little holes in this object. And now let's say I didn't like that. I can always come back. And I'm actually going to push it up just a little bit. And then we're going to repeat that process. Okay, so again I'm going to subtract these. And there we go. Now if you wanted to do a more complex pattern, you can actually layer it and stagger them. And that will allow you to do your nice little suppressors, similar to most rifles. And so there I have my little 3 holes here. And now I have this object here. I'm going to do a join. I'm going to join these 2 parts together, along with this as well. And the reason I'm joining them together is because I want to be able to replicate them. So again, I'm going to use my pattern tool. I'm going to select as many faces as I can. You want to get all the faces you can on these. And then I'm going to take my axis, and I'm only doing 3. And as you can see, because of the positioning, they're staggered from the holes. And there is my 3 prongs with my little end cap that's been hollowed out. And now I'm going to move up, and let's do a little bit more interesting parts. We're going to use another cone. You'll find that I use a lot of cones when I do these kind of things. And one of the things I'm going to do is a non-uniform scale on this. And I'm going to pull this up. Now, because I'm doing a non-uniform scale, the bottom of it is still going to be the same diameter, but it's become a lot longer. And now if I take and rotate this upside down 180 degrees, and then push it all the way in here, and then expand it just a little bit using the pull command. Not quite that much. Just enough that it overlaps the existing part. So now it's overlapping this part, and now if I join these 2 pieces together, you notice I've created a nice little taper on the top there. And so now we're starting to get a little bit more complicated. So we've created a section of the staff here. And if you look at the one previous here, you'll see that even blindfolded, I'm doing something very similar. We're going to want to join all these pieces together because when you're dealing with sections like this, you do want to keep them joined together. It will make things easier on you. I tried to not join any more than one section at a time, mainly because of printing limitations, so some printers can't print quite as large. So there we go. Seems these are not attached directly into these parts. Not low enough, so in order to fix that, as you can see there's a gap there. So what we're going to do is pull this down using my nice little move command. Nope, we won't do that. What we will do is we'll select the top ring of all of them. And then we pull them in until they are inside. Once they're inside, go ahead and select all of them with the join command. And now, when we move this, it will just set right up. Now, I also put a little button detail on here. That was more cosmetic than anything. But I'm going to show you how to make a little bit more complicated of a button or a rivet or any kind of detail like that. I'm going to take the sphere here. We're going to reduce the radius to about 5. And then I'm going to take and snap it to this object. And again, we're going to hide this because we don't want to look at that right now. It's actually distorting my ability to zoom in and out quickly. So here I have this piece now. I'm going to pull it up about halfway. And then push it in here. Not all the way, we just need a little bit. And we're going to leave that there for a moment. Then we'll come in here with a cylinder, which is also going to have a radius that's been reduced, but we're going to put it at 4 radius. We grab the top of it, and then we attach it to this circle, or to this sphere. We want to rotate it around. Now, due to the current setting on here, we want this. Okay, we're going to back up just a bit here, and I'll explain why in a moment. I want everything to snap together properly, so we make our little 4-size part. And we're going to grab the sphere and the cylinder at the same time and move them both up. Then we repeat the process of moving the sphere back. We're going to use subtraction, which now cut a hole into this object. Then we're going to reduce the size of this. And just think of this as sculpting. You don't need to always be precise with everything, because you can always adjust it. Now I'm going to put a little bit of a circle there. Then I'm going to come in with another sphere, and this one's going to be 3. It's going to sit right in the center there, and then be pushed back in. Now we're going to cut that out again. Now we have this nice little button that's been riveted in. It gives a little bit more of an aesthetic detail. Then we can come around here on this edge and we can flatten this out a bit, but we're not going to do that. We're just going to leave it like that, and we have this now inset button. Who knows what it does? Maybe it shoots off a lightsaber. But that's what that little button will be for. Now, on the other model, there is a detail that I added here to the top of this cone. And I'm going to do something similar to it. Again, we're going to use another sphere. We're going to make a small one this time, though. And we're going to attach it right to the edge. Then, we're going to push this in. And you'll find this is a really heavily used tactic that you will do a lot of when you're working with this program. We're going to do a non-uniform scale though, and we're going to stretch this out into an egg kind of shape. And now I'm going to come in here with my pattern, and I'm going to do a circle pattern. Select that on my axis here, and I'm going to do 8 of these. And then I'm going to come in with my subtraction. Now I've cut these little divots in, which provides a little bit more texture. Again, just for interest. And then we're going to come back in with a cylinder. Now this cylinder is the exact same diameter as the cylinder below it, but we don't want that. We actually want this cylinder to be a little bit bigger. And we don't know what the diameter on this one is off the top, so we go in and we get the dimension info. Now, because we have those prongs on the bottom, we can't actually measure it that way. So what we do is we have 2 choices. 1, we can try to eyeball it, or 2, we can back up and then measure the diameter. Because we've cut all the holes into it, there's no longer a set diameter. But I'm just going to eyeball it for now. And because I've been using the pull command, everything is snapping to a set amount. So now, we didn't have to worry too much about that. So we have a staff building up very slowly here. Now, there was something that I didn't do on this one yet. I have not done a fillet radius on this one. So, in order to make this a little bit more high-tech, a little bit more refined, we're going to add fillets. Now, if I had done this before I did the transfer, I would not have to do it as many times, but we're going to give it a fillet of, I'm just going to do 1. Now, there is a bit of an issue because of this line here. So we're going to have to fix that. So it is fixable. Now I just fixed it, and it is actually the exact same size as it was previous. Doesn't look like it, but it actually is. Okay, so the nice thing about using the pull command is that it clicks to set amounts. So again, we have this issue here. And it looks like we only repaired the 1. Now, there are a couple things I can do. The first one, and probably the easiest one here that I can do, is going to be to chop them off. However, that's not quite as easy as it sounds. since they're all joined together now, I have a slight issue with doing that. I'm not sure why it did this, or why I can't undo it on this particular side. But if I come in with a box here, pull it out all the way, and then do a cut, I should end up with a nice flat edge. Oops, we went a little bit overboard there. So one thing you have to be careful about is you don't want to go overboard, because I just chopped into that. So I'm going to rotate it. Until it is not actually inside of that piece there. And then we're going to snap it to here for a second. And then we're going to snap it to here. Okay. Now, for some odd reason, it is going off at a very strange angle, and I don't know why. I see. All right, so for the sake of argument, had I done these other ones correctly, actually there is a quicker way I can do this. So what I'm going to do is this. This will be a bit unorthodox, but it always helps to know how to fix these kind of things. So what I'm going to do is cut this out. On all the bad ones. And so I come in and I will subtract this box. And then I will do it again over here. And now I have one good one here. And what I can do with this is I can take my circular pattern, select this piece, and then go around my axis. Now I did add a lot of parts that I didn't want to do when I did that, but the good news is all I need to do is grab the bottom here, the destroyed one, okay, so we're going to start hiding pieces. So I need to grab the bottom of this, Okay, and then I'm going to come up here and put a box right here. And we're going to remove the excessive parts. So we're going to copy this twice, grab one of these, paste it there, and then grab another one. And now we are back to what it looked like before, but not quite. We have to start joining all the parts together. And now we've corrected our issue. Just like that, it's all gone. Took a little bit of tweaking, but we were able to get it fixed. Now we can do our chamfer and fillets. In this case, we're going to do a fillet because we want this to look a little bit more refined, like there was some care taken into it. And so now we go with, we're going to do 3. No, looks like I can't do 3, so we're going to be 2.5, which gives me almost a completely rounded edge. And then I come in under the bottom and repeat the process. So now we have those nice rounded corners. And then we are going to now show our meshes again, and we will zoom out, hide my staff here, and we're just going to make an original version of it from this point on. So we've gone ahead and put this part on here, and let's start adding some detail. We're going to take this part here, and then we're going to expand it. So let's do that. Let's give this a radius of 15. Snap that into place. Rotate it 180 degrees. Push it all the way down into here until it goes past the line. And then we're going to join these two pieces together, but we're still leaving these pieces disconnected. Now, one thing I do like to do when I'm working on multiple parts is I start coloring pieces. And by coloring it, I'm able to see where one part starts and one part ends. Like this button here. Connect that. And then we're going to add a very large piece here. Now we're going to pull However, in this case, we need to know what the diameter on the top of this is. And the quickest way to do that is to look at our dimension info. It says it's 30, so half 30 is 15. So make a 15 radius. Pull our part up a little bit. Want some nice length on this part of the staff here. And now we're going to add some details. In this case, we're going to add some ribbing. So we start off at the top, we get connected here. I'm going to give it a major radius of 16, just so it's slightly larger, and then a minor of 2. Okay. And then to make it a little bit different, I'm going to do a non-uniform scale, squish it down a little bit, and now we have this piece. Now, here's another cool thing with patterns. There is what's called the path pattern. So I'm going to select this object, and then I'm going to select my path. In this case, my path is going to be a square that I'm going to put over here. The reason I put a square down is it allows me to create a straight line down. Doesn't matter where my square is, I'm able to do that. And then if I want to increase the number, I simply drag the bar up here and I can increase it. However, it's not quite big enough in order for me to get the amount that I want in this case. Still not long enough. I want a few dozen ribs on this part. Okay. So now we have a very nice texture here. We're going to delete all these extras. Too many. Okay, let me come up to the top, delete this last one here. And then grab all of these. Select our main circle here and join them together. And now we have one piece. And it has a very interesting grip to it, kind of like a piece of found material. Then we're going to come back in with a smaller part. Snap it to the middle. Expand it out just a bit. We're actually going to make this into a coupler. And to give it a little bit of decorative quality, we're going to make a very thin piece. And it's going to just connect right to here. I'm going to push that all the way through like that. And then again, we're going to join the two pieces together. And then we come in with my fillet, selecting both sides, and adding that little detail right there. And then we're going to push it down a little bit because I feel like it's a bit too long. Now that detail is something just like you would see on a piece of PVC pipe. It's simply to give it a little bit more character. We're going to delete that there. And now we're going to do another type of grip. And this grip is going to be, we'll go back to 15 again. This grip is going to be uneven. And it's going to transition into a little bit more complicated of a shape. So we're going to put this in here with a 15 radius. Going to enlarge it a bit, and then we're going to go to non-uniform enlargement. We're going to pull it out into a egg shape. Then we're going to join these two parts together. Now, in order to make this even more interesting, we're going to create another sphere. And this is something similar to what I did on the staff, is I created these inset parts. They were simply to add character to the design, but they were also in the original design as well. Now it's a little hard to do this part because it's not sitting quite square, unfortunately. Now we're going to cut this part out. Now we have this nice little hole in there. And then to add some character to it, we're going to take this piece here and just attach it to the side. We're going to rotate it 90 degrees, push it straight through to there, and then pull this all the way down.